The night was unusually cold in Chicago, a city known for its resilient spirit and bustling streets. But beneath the city's vibrant facade lay secrets that whispered through the shadows, stories of love, loss, and restless spirits. This is one such story, a tale that began with excitement and ended in terror, revolving around the enigmatic third floor of an old hospital. Ethan Miller glanced at his watch for the umpteenth time, the hands inching closer to 6 p.m. High school senior, class valedictorian, and the epitome of a responsible teenager, Ethan had always been the one to lead the way. His friends admired his dedication, and his teachers appreciated his diligence. Yet, beneath his composed exterior, Ethan harbored a sense of restlessness, a yearning for something beyond the ordinary. His excitement today was palpable. In just 2 weeks, his cousin Jake Lawson was getting married in Chicago, and Ethan had been tasked with helping with the final preparations. The Lawson family home in Oak Park, a serene suburb of Chicago, was abuzz with activity. Relatives from all over the country were arriving, bringing with them an air of joy and anticipation. Ethan had always shared a special bond with Jake. Growing up together, they had navigated the tumultuous waters of adolescence side by side. While Jake was the outgoing one, Ethan was the thinker, often finding solace in books and quiet reflection. Despite their differences, their camaraderie was unbreakable. "Hey, Ethan, over here." Jake's voice rang out, pulling Ethan from his thoughts. Ethan turned to see Jake waving enthusiastically from the living room, a broad smile plastered across his face. Jake was surrounded by his fiancée, Emily, and their close-knit group of friends and family. The room was decorated with fairy lights and elegant floral arrangements, setting the perfect scene for the upcoming nuptials. "Ready for the big day?" Jake asked, clapping Ethan on the back. "Absolutely," Ethan replied, though a hint of unease lingered at the edges of his excitement. There was something about the old Lawson house that always gave him the creeps, especially the third floor. The third floor of the Lawson family home had always been shrouded in mystery. It was rarely used, mostly left to collect dust and cobwebs. Legends circulated among the family members about strange noises and inexplicable occurrences emanating from that floor. Most dismissed them as old house tales, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the stories. As the days passed, the wedding preparations intensified. Decorations were put up, catering arrangements were finalized, and guests began to arrive in droves. Ethan found himself juggling between helping Jake and managing his own schoolwork, striving to maintain his grades despite the added responsibilities. One rainy afternoon, Jake approached Ethan with a task that would change everything. "Ethan, could you do me a favor?" Jake asked, his expression earnest. "We need to pick up some last-minute decorations from the old St. Mary's supply store downtown. It's the only place that has the vintage lanterns we wanted for the ceremony. Can you handle it?" Ethan hesitated. The store was on the outskirts of town, near an old, abandoned hospital that had been closed for years. The hospital's third floor, in particular, was notorious for its eerie atmosphere. "Sure, I can do it." Ethan finally agreed, though a shiver ran down his spine at the mention of St. Mary's. Jake handed him the keys to his motorcycle, a sleek black bike that Ethan had admired for years. "Thanks, man. You're a lifesaver." As Ethan mounted the motorcycle, he felt a surge of adrenaline. The rain had eased, leaving the streets glistening under the streetlights. The ride was exhilarating. The engines roared, drowning out the lingering remnants of the storm. Ethan navigated through the narrow streets of Chicago, the cityscape reflecting off the wet pavement. He reached St. Mary's supply store without much trouble. The store was housed in an old warehouse-like building, its windows dusty and barely visible through the grime. Inside, the store was dimly lit, with aisles cluttered with various decorations and supplies. Ethan quickly located the vintage lanterns Jake had requested, carefully loading them onto the motorcycle. As he made his way out, A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the dark sky, followed by a loud clap of thunder that echoed through the empty streets. The return journey was supposed to be straightforward, but as Ethan approached the intersection near the abandoned St. Mary's Hospital, the weather took a turn for the worse. Dark clouds rolled in swiftly, and the wind picked up, making it difficult to control the motorcycle. As he rounded a corner, a blinding flash of lightning struck a nearby tree, sending a cascade of debris falling onto the road. Ethan swerved to avoid the falling branches, but in the chaos, he lost control of the bike. The motorcycle skidded on the slick pavement, crashing violently against the curb. Pain shot through Ethan's body as he tried to steady himself, but the impact had taken its toll. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, and his leg throbbed painfully. Disoriented and scared, he struggled to his feet, realizing he was still conscious but injured. With no phone in sight, he had left it at the house. Ethan was alone and vulnerable. The storm raged on, and the streets were eerily quiet. Panic set in as he looked around, trying to find a way back. His only option was to seek help from the nearby hospital. Summoning his remaining strength, Ethan hobbled towards the old St. Mary's Hospital. The building loomed ominously against the darkened sky, its windows shattered, and the entrance barely noticeable through the overgrown weeds. Mustering his courage, he made his way inside, the cold air sending shivers down his spine. The hospital's interior was a maze of empty corridors and abandoned rooms. The fluorescent lights flickered sporadically, casting unsettling shadows that danced on the walls. Ethan navigated the winding halls, the sound of his footsteps echoing unnervingly. Finally, he reached the emergency room, a stark contrast to the rest of the dilapidated building. The room was surprisingly clean, with a functional reception desk and a few chairs for waiting patients. Ethan's heart pounded as he approached the desk, but no one was there. Desperate, he attempted to call out for help, but his voice was barely a whisper. The phone lines were dead, and the only sound was the distant hum of machinery and the relentless storm outside. "Hello? Please, someone help me," Ethan pleaded, his voice breaking. Suddenly, the lights went out, plunging him into darkness. Panic surged through him as he fumbled for his phone, only to realize it was missing. Someone had stolen it during the crash. With no means of communication, Ethan was left alone in the silent, oppressive hospital. He decided to stay put, hoping someone would find him in the morning. As he settled onto a bench, his mind raced with fear and uncertainty. Morning light filtered through the grimy windows, but Ethan remained asleep, exhausted from the previous night's ordeal. When he finally woke, the hospital seemed even more abandoned than before. Determined to find help, he rose unsteadily, ignoring the throbbing pain in his leg. Ethan made his way back through the corridors, but something felt off. The hospital was eerily quiet, with no sign of life. He reached the reception desk, hoping to find a working phone or at least some assistance, but the area was empty. Desperate, he decided to explore the building further, hoping to find someone or something that could help him. As he wandered deeper into the hospital, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The walls seemed to close in on him, and the shadows lengthened, creating a sense of claustrophobia. He came across a set of stairs leading to the upper floors. Despite his fear, he felt an inexplicable pull towards the third floor, the very same floor that had always been the subject of family stories. Ignoring the voice of reason, Ethan ascended the stairs, each step creaking ominously beneath his weight. The third floor was different from the others. The air was thick with a heavy, oppressive energy that made it difficult to breathe. The corridors were dimly lit, with only a few flickering lights providing any illumination. Ethan noticed that many of the rooms were locked or boarded up, further adding to the unsettling atmosphere. As he ventured deeper, he heard faint whispers echoing through the halls. The sound was soft, almost imperceptible, but it sent chills down his spine. He followed the whispers, which seemed to guide him towards a particular room at the end of the corridor. The door was slightly ajar, and Ethan pushed it open cautiously. Inside, the room was cluttered with old furniture and broken equipment. Dust particles floated in the air, visible in the dim light. In the center of the room stood a large, antique mirror, its surface cracked and tarnished. Ethan approached the mirror, drawn to it despite the fear gnawing at him. As he peered into the glass, his reflection stared back at him, but something was wrong. His eyes seemed hollow, and his expression was twisted in pain. Suddenly, the room grew colder, and a shadowy figure materialized beside him in the mirror. It was Jake, or rather, what Jake had become. His cousin's eyes were empty, and his mouth moved silently as if trying to speak. Ethan. Jake's voice was barely a whisper, distorted and ghostly. "Help me." Ethan recoiled in terror, stumbling back from the mirror. The figure dissipated, and the room plunged into darkness once more. His heart raced as he realized that the third floor was more than just a place of old stories. It was a realm where restless spirits lingered. Determined to find answers, Ethan decided to confront the mystery of the third floor. He navigated back to the reception area, hoping to find any clues that could explain the strange occurrences. There, he found an old ledger on the desk, its pages yellowed with age. Flipping through it, Ethan discovered records of the hospital's past. St. Mary's had once been a thriving medical facility, but a series of tragic accidents had plagued it, leading to its eventual closure. Many patients had died under mysterious circumstances, and rumors of hauntings had spread, scaring away both staff and patients alike. One entry stood out to Ethan. It detailed a young nurse named Rachel Thompson, who had worked on the third floor during a particularly harsh winter. The records mentioned that Rachel had vanished without a trace, her disappearance never solved. The ledger hinted at supernatural occurrences tied to her death, reinforcing the legends Ethan had heard in his family. As Ethan delved deeper into the ledger, he realized that the third floor was haunted by the spirits of those who had suffered and died there. Their unrest was a result of unresolved emotions and unfinished business, trapping their souls within the hospital's walls. With this newfound knowledge, Ethan felt a surge of determination. If Jake's spirit was trapped there, he had to find a way to help him move on. But how? Ethan knew he couldn't face this alone. He needed someone who could understand and perhaps communicate with the spirits haunting the third floor. Remembering stories his grandmother used to tell him about mediums and spiritualists, he decided to seek professional help. He reached out to Claire Mitchell, a renowned medium known for her ability to communicate with the dead. Claire had helped numerous families find closure, bridging the gap between the living and the departed. Ethan hoped she could help him save Jake. Arranging a meeting, Ethan explained his predicament to Claire. She listened intently, her expression serious yet compassionate. "I understand how frightening this must be for you, Ethan," Claire said gently. "The spirits here are bound by strong emotions. If we can communicate with them, we might be able to understand their grievances and help them find peace." With Claire's guidance, they planned a seance to be conducted on the third floor. The night of the seance, Ethan felt a mix of hope and dread. The hospital was silent, the only sounds being the distant rumble of thunder and the occasional drip of water from the leaky ceiling. Claire arrived with her equipment, candles, crystals, and sacred objects meant to facilitate communication with the spirit world. She set up a circle in the center of the room, the flickering candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. "Spirits of St. Mary's," Claire began, her voice steady. "We are here to listen and help you find peace. Please, communicate with us." For a few tense moments, nothing happened. Then, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing some of the candles. The air grew thick, and the temperature plummeted. A faint whisper echoed through the chamber, barely audible. "Help us." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine as Claire continued to speak, trying to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Slowly, the spirits began to manifest, their forms ethereal and translucent. One by one, they appeared patients who had lost their lives in tragic accidents, nurses who had vanished without explanation, and even Rachel Thompson, the nurse whose disappearance had become the hospital's dark legend. Rachel's spirit stood out among them, her presence both sorrowful and angry. She approached Ethan and Claire, her eyes filled with pain. "Why are you here?" Rachel's voice was a haunting melody, filled with longing. "Our stories are untold. Our deaths are unfinished. Help us." Ethan stepped forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "We want to help you find peace. Please, tell us what you need." Rachel's spirit seemed to hesitate, then began to recount her tragic story. She had been a dedicated nurse, working tirelessly on the 3rd floor during the harsh winter months. One night, a fire had broken out, engulfing the floor in flames. Rachel had tried to save as many patients as she could, but in the chaos, she had been trapped and perished. "Unfinished business," she murmured. "I couldn't save them all. Their souls are restless. We need closure." Claire nodded, understanding the weight of Rachel's words. "Is there anything we can do to help you all move on?" The spirits remained silent for a moment, their forms flickering uncertainly. Then, one by one, they began to fade, their expressions softening as a sense of peace enveloped the room. As the last spirit disappeared, Rachel remained, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "Thank you," she whispered. "You've given us hope." With that, Rachel's spirit dissipated, and the room returned to its previous calm. The oppressive energy lifted, replaced by a serene stillness. Ethan felt a profound sense of relief, knowing that the spirits had found peace. But he couldn't shake the feeling that his ordeal wasn't over yet. With the spirits appeased, Ethan thought his troubles were over. However, the days that followed proved otherwise. He noticed subtle changes in his cousin Jake, who seemed more withdrawn and distant. His once vibrant personality had dulled, replaced by a haunting emptiness. At first, Ethan dismissed it as stress from the upcoming wedding. But as days turned into weeks, Jake's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He would wander the house late at night, muttering to himself, and sometimes refusing to eat or sleep. Concerned, Ethan decided to confront him. "Jake, what's going on? You've been acting strange lately," Ethan asked one evening as they sat in the living room. Jake looked up, his eyes vacant. "I'm fine, Ethan. Just tired from all the preparations." But Ethan wasn't convinced. He had seen Jake's transformation firsthand, and something was undeniably wrong. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Ethan revisited the old ledger and the notes from the seance. He realized that the 3rd floor's influence might not be entirely gone. One night, unable to sleep, Ethan decided to investigate further. He made his way to the 3rd floor, the very place where the spirits had been. The corridor was dark, the air thick with an eerie silence. As he approached the antique mirror that had shown Jake's hollow reflection, he felt a cold gust of wind brush past him. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled, and Jake's image appeared once more, his eyes pleading. "Help me, Ethan." Ethan reached out to touch the mirror, but his hand passed through the glass, meeting only the cool surface. Frustrated and scared, he pulled back, realizing that the connection between Jake and the spirits might be stronger than he had thought. Determined to save his cousin, Ethan sought out Claire again. They met at the Lawson family home, where Claire agreed to perform another seance, this time focusing on Jake's condition. As night fell, Ethan and Claire prepared for the ritual. The house was quiet, the wedding festivities in full swing downstairs. They ascended to the 3rd floor, the room where the mirror stood now serving as their focal point. "Jake," Claire began, her voice firm yet gentle. "We are here to help you. Please, communicate with us." The air grew cold, and the lights flickered. Jake's spirit materialized in the mirror, his form more defined this time. "Ethan, I can't leave," Jake's voice echoed from the mirror. "They're here. The spirits won't let me go. Ethan's heart pounded. Jake, we can help you. Please, let us assist. Claire stepped forward, placing her hands on the mirror. Tell us what you need, Jake. What binds you here? Jake's spirit seemed to struggle, the pain evident in his ethereal eyes. I love her, Ethan. Emily. She doesn't know. The spirits, they want us to be together, but it's wrong. I can't let go. Ethan felt a surge of empathy. Jake was torn between the living and the dead, unable to reconcile his love for Emily with the restless spirit seeking connection. Jake, your love for Emily is real, Ethan said softly, but the spirits want to move on too. We can find a way for everyone to find peace. Claire nodded, understanding the delicate balance required. Jake, it's time to let go. Let Emily move forward and allow the spirits to find their peace. Jake's spirit seemed to waver, the conflict within him palpable. I don't know how. Let us guide you, Claire offered, her voice soothing. Together, we can perform a ritual to release the bonds that tie you and the spirits to this world. Ethan felt a renewed sense of hope. They began the ritual, chanting incantations and lighting candles as Claire directed them. The room's atmosphere shifted, the oppressive energy giving way to a sense of calm. As they continued, the mirror began to glow, the spirits converging around it. Jake's spirit reached out, his form becoming more translucent as he accepted the release. Ethan, thank you, Jake whispered before his spirit dissolved into the light, finally finding the peace he had long sought. The third floor felt lighter, the dark presence lifted. Ethan and Claire knew that the ordeal was over, and the Lawson family could finally move forward. The day of the wedding arrived, filled with joy and celebration. The Lawson family home was adorned with beautiful decorations, and the air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers. Relatives and friends gathered, their laughter and chatter creating a vibrant atmosphere. Ethan watched as Jake and Emily exchanged vows, their love evident in every word and gesture. The ceremony was heartfelt, a testament to the bond they shared. As the newlyweds shared their first dance, Ethan felt a sense of relief wash over him. The darkness that had plagued their family was finally gone. However, as the night progressed, Ethan couldn't shake the lingering memories of the third floor. He wondered if the spirits were truly at peace, or if there were more secrets hidden within the old hospital. As the celebration continued, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to reach out. Peace has been restored, but the spirit world is always watching. Ethan smiled, grateful for Claire's assistance. He knew that while the immediate threat was gone, the balance between the living and the dead was delicate and ever-present. Months passed, and life seemed to return to normal for Ethan and his family. Jake and Emily settled into their married life, and Ethan focused on his studies, preparing for college. Yet, every now and then, Ethan would find himself drawn back to the old hospital, the memories of that harrowing experience still fresh in his mind. One evening, as Ethan walked past the abandoned St. Mary's Hospital, he noticed the third-floor window flickering with a faint light. His heart raced as he recalled the stories and his own experiences. Was someone else seeking help? Driven by curiosity and a sense of responsibility, Ethan decided to investigate. He approached the hospital cautiously, the building now more decrepit than ever. The third-floor door was ajar, the light seeping out into the night. Summoning his courage, Ethan pushed the door open and stepped inside. The hallway was dark, the only illumination coming from the flickering light above. As he ascended the stairs, the air grew colder, and the oppressive energy he had felt before began to return. Reaching the third floor, Ethan saw a figure standing near the mirror. It was Rachel Thompson, the nurse whose spirit had been freed months ago. But now, her presence felt different, angry, and vengeful. "Why are you here?" Ethan demanded, his voice trembling. Rachel's spirit glared at him, her eyes burning with fury. You think you've freed us? There are others who remain bound by their pain. You meddled with forces beyond your understanding." Ethan took a step back, realizing the gravity of the situation. I only wanted to help Jake and the spirits." "What do you want?" Rachel's form began to distort, her anger manifesting in the environment around her. "You cannot undo what has been done. The spirits demand respect, not intrusion." Before Ethan could react, the room plunged into darkness once more. The mirror's surface rippled, and Ethan felt himself being pulled towards it, his vision blurring as he struggled to maintain control. Ethan's surroundings shifted, and he found himself standing before Rachel's spirit once again. The room was now filled with the anguished cries of other spirits, their pain echoing through the halls. "Why won't you leave us alone?" Ethan pleaded. "We are trying to help you find peace." Rachel's spirit seemed to waver, the intensity of her anger giving way to sorrow. "They never found peace. Our stories were forgotten, our deaths ignored. You cannot force us to move on." Ethan realized that true closure was needed, not just for Jake and Rachel, but for all the spirits trapped within St. Mary's. He needed to honor their memories and give them the recognition they deserved. "Please, tell me what you need," Ethan said earnestly. "I will make sure your stories are told. Let us remember you and honor your lives." Rachel's spirit looked into Ethan's eyes, her anger slowly dissipating. "We need our stories to be remembered. Share our truths. Let the world know what happened here. Only then can we find peace." With newfound determination, Ethan agreed. He knew that preserving the memories of those who had suffered was the key to freeing them from their eternal bondage. Ethan left the hospital with a heavy heart but a clear mission. He began researching the history of St. Mary's Hospital, uncovering the tragic events that had led to its downfall. He discovered that the hospital had been involved in controversial medical experiments and that many patients had perished under mysterious circumstances. Armed with this knowledge, Ethan reached out to local historians and journalists, determined to shed light on the forgotten stories of St. Mary's. He organized memorials and written tributes, ensuring that the lives lost in the hospital's dark past were honored and remembered. Slowly, the energy around St. Mary's began to change. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of serenity. The spirits, now acknowledged and remembered, found the closure they had long sought. One evening, as Ethan walked past the hospital, he saw a final apparition, Rachel's spirit, smiling peacefully. "Thank you," she whispered before fading into the night. Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that he had played a part in bringing peace to the restless souls of St. Mary's. The third floor, once a place of fear and sorrow, was now a symbol of remembrance and respect. Years later, the story of St. Mary's Hospital became a cautionary tale in Chicago, a reminder of the importance of remembering and honoring the past. Ethan, now a renowned historian, continued to share the stories of those who had been forgotten, ensuring that their lives were never erased from memory. The third floor, once shrouded in mystery and darkness, stood as a testament to the power of love, remembrance, and the human spirit's resilience. And as Ethan looked back on his experiences, he realized that sometimes the most profound journeys are those that bridge the realms of the living and the dead, bringing light to even the darkest of places.